of stark, deliberate homicide, entitled Too Close to Call. Quite appropriate for this hallowed season, isn't it? The play was written and directed for your approval and your powers of deduction, if you dare, by our own very dark and devious Chris McCarthy, a man who entertains us with death. Murder, ladies and gentlemen. Cold, calculated murder. And you are involved. The play begins.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Detective Sam Diamond. It was about 7 o'clock last Friday when the police got the call. It seems that a very wealthy, but a very despised, Mr. William M. Nair, a billionaire to his friends, if he had any, was found dead in his home office of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot. On the desk in front of him were files and folders containing the company's financial reports for the previous year. A series of multi-million-dollar losses. There were only 2 people at home at the time. The maid was in her quarters 2 floors below watching television. And the butler thought he heard something about 5:30, but he dismissed it as being the maid's television. But when the butler went down to tell Mr. Nair that dinner was going to be ready at 7 o'clock, he found Mr. Nair in his home office at 6:30, dead. Now, it didn't take me long for my suspicions to be aroused concerning this apparent suicide. Tonight, you will have a chance to match wits with me. You have a detective's report. I will be interviewing every one of the suspects. They, in turn, will be reenacting what they heard and what they saw. Not always did they hear and see the same thing. You'll have to find out what is the truth and what isn't. Good luck. Now, the police arrived and got the names of all of Mr. Nair's visitors that day. I arrived at the prestigious home of Mr. Billionaire at about 10 o'clock and was let in by the butler. So let's go back to that night. Good evening, sir. Detective Sam Diamond from Homicide.
From homicide? Why, I thought,
Just a routine, sir. And you are?
I'm mad as hell.
Sir, I can understand why you'd be upset at a night like this. But what is your name?
I'm Matt Assel, Mr. Nair.
Matt. Mr. Assel, could you show me where you found Mr. Nair tonight? Mr. Assel, it looks like there's a 4th glass that is missing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Why, I don't know where that 4th class would be.
That's all right. If you happen to see it, would you please let me know? And I understand that all of the people that were called in tonight are ready to be questioned. Is that right?
Yes, sir, they're in the living room waiting now.
Could you please ask the first one to come in then? Oh, good evening, sir. I'm Detective Sam Diamond.
I'm you.
You're me.
No, I'm you.
I'm sure you can stop that anytime. What is your name?
You betcha.
Well, what is it?
What is what?
Sir, there's been a man died here tonight, and I'm not going to put up with your silly games. Now, please tell me your name.
I'm you.
Sir, what is your name?
My name is You Betcha. H-U-G-H, capital B-E-T-C-H-A. And I have been Mr. Nair's chief financial consultant for over 10 years.
You betcha? Well, Mr. Betcha, can you tell me when you last saw the deceased?
Yeah, it was about 8:30 this morning. He requested that I come over to his home office, and I was there with Mr. Nair and Alibi.
I'm sure you have a fine alibi. But I just want to know what happened and what did you talk about?
No. Miss Alibi. A-L-I, capital B-I-G-H. She was Mr. Nair's personal assistant. And I was there with Mr. Nair, and she was touching up her fingernails. And Mr. Nair and I were discussing the company's finances.
Personal assistant.
Sit down, you. I'm worried about the company's continuing poor performance. We can't seem to stop this downturn. And quite frankly, these recent losses are going to raise a lot of eyebrows at the stockholders meeting at the end of this.
Telling you, Mr. Nair, there's nothing to worry about. Sure, we've taken a few hits with the stock market and a few other bad investments here and there, but you'll see, we'll be in the black before you can say Secretariat by a nose.
That may be so, but on Monday, I'm going to call a meeting of the board and demand an audit of the books. Heads are going to roll.
No, Mr. Nair, that won't be necessary. Here, take a look at this report. It shows everything in black and white.
What is this? These are...
It's all right there.
There's nothing there.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong report. I'll get you the correct figures first thing Monday. But you'll see, by Monday, all our problems will be solved.
Excuse me. Mayor speaking. Oh, yes, hello. call my club and cancel my racquetball game for 5 o'clock?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
Hugh, is there anything else?
Well, there is just one thing. In going over the corporate and your personal books, well, I just noticed several incredibly large charges to Nordstrom, several jewelry stores, and Victoria's Secret.
Oh,
And I just think with the cash flow situation, it's just a bit extravagant.
Hugh, your job here is to tell us how to make more money, not how to spend it.
Of course, sir. Yes, sir. Good day, sir. And then I left.
What time did you leave?
It was about 9.
What did you do the rest of the day?
Well, I went into the corporate offices, and I worked all day. I know I ordered a sandwich from Rosen's delivered in, and I worked till about 4. And then I went over to the north side to work out.
North side.
Yeah, North Side Fitness and Racket Club. It's over on the highway. And I was in the weight, the machines and the Stairmaster for about an hour. And then I took a jacuzzi. And after that, I got in the steam room for a little while before I hit the showers. Nothing like a little steam to clean out the old pores.
Did anyone see you there?
Well, there are several people there, but nobody that I knew. And then at 7, I met friends at Trey's Sheep for dinner. I remember the reservation was for 7, and I'm always prompt. And then, just after dessert was delivered, my cell phone rang to request me to come back here.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Is there anything more you can tell me?
Nothing comes to mind.
Well, thank you very much. Would you please pass the next person coming in?
You bet.
Please come in.
oh, is this where they found Billy? Oh, I mean, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Right in there. I'm Detective Sam Diamond, and you are?
My name is Miss Ally Bai.
Miss Ally Bai, you're Mr. Mayor's personal assistant?
Yes, sir.
I may have a difficult question. I understand that you and Mr. Nair were close?
Oh, I don't know what you've heard, but Mr. Nair and I had strictly a professional relationship.
Oh, yes, of course. I certainly didn't mean to imply anything else. What was your interaction with the deceased today?
Well, I went by the house this morning around 8:30 in the morning and started taking dictation.
Furthermore, due to the poor financial performance of Nair Industries, I have concluded that a detailed audit is necessary, and I am taking the required steps. Thank you. Hugh, it's about time you got back from Europe. While you've been traipsing all over half of the countries, the company continues its downturn, and we can't seem to stop this decline. And quite losses are going to raise a lot of eyebrows at the stockholders meeting at the end of this month.
Mr. Nair, I'm telling you that there's nothing to worry about. Sure, we've had a few bad investments here and there, some hits on the stock market, but you'll see, we'll be back in the black before you can say, Secretary, by a note.
Q, that may be so. But on Monday, I'm going to call a meeting of the board and demand an audit of the books. You heads are going to roll.
Mr. Nair, that won't be necessary. Here, take a look at that report. Everything's there in black and white.
What is this? These are... What is this?
It's all right there. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong report. But I'll get you the correct figures first thing Monday. You'll see, though. By Monday, all my problems will be solved.
Excuse me, Miss Spy, did he say all of my problems or all of our problems?
Oh, I'm sure he said all of my problems.
Thank you, please continue.
Hello, Nair speaking. Oh, that's disappointing. Yes, that's fine. I'll be there. Thank you. Good day. Miss Spy, would you please call my club and cancel my racquetball game for 5 o'clock?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
Hugh, is there anything else?
No, sir. Thank you. Good day, sir.
Miss Spy, we can get back to this memo on Monday. Why don't you just fold it up and take the rest of the day?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that was the last time I saw poor Mr. Nair. First, I went home, and then I went to the beauty parlor. And then I decided, well, maybe I should go to the grocery store. So I went to the grocery store, and then I went back home until I got that dreadful call.
Can anyone verify that you were at home?
Oh, yes. Mrs. Griswold, the old bat, lives across the hall from me. She pokes her fat nose out the door every time anything goes on in our building. She'll verify that I was home.
And what time was that?
Oh, I got back home around 5:30.
All right. If there is anything more that you can tell me, would you please let me know?
Certainly.
And could you ask the next person? Thank you. Oh, good evening, Detective Sanzai.
Deb and Aaron.
Mayor, Deb and Mayor, would you possibly be related to the deceased?
I was.
Mr. Nair, thank you for coming.
Whatever. I need a drink.
I'm sorry. Please don't go in there. This is considered a possible crime scene.
Crime scene? I thought Uncle Billy did himself in.
Well, that's what it appears to be. But until we know for sure, I'd appreciate it if you don't touch anything.
Whatever. So I suppose you want to know where I was when he died. What time did he croak?
You don't seem to be too upset about your uncle's death. Did you and he not get along very well?
On the contrary, Detective, I was his favorite niece. Then again, I was his only niece.
Well, let's start at the beginning. When did you arrive at the house, and what was your interaction with your uncle?
Oh, I showed up around 10 o'clock or so. I was just about to knock on Uncle Billy's door. That's creep!
Miss Alibi was leaving when you arrived at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and she was crying up a storm. Uncle Billy was probably dumping her for his latest conquest.
So Mr. Nair and Miss Bai were having some kind of...
Yeah, and everybody knew about it, even my Aunt Joy. Hi, Uncle Billy.
Yes, Deborah.
Listen, Uncle Billy, I'm a tad behind on a couple of debts, and well, I was wondering if I could get an advance on my inheritance.
How much do you need?
A couple grand should do. With all that you've got, that's just a drop in the old bucket, right?
A couple of grand? If you don't mind my asking, what would that be for?
Well, Detective, if you must know, I like the ponies, as they say. I had a couple of bad days, and some sure things turned out to be real nags, and I owe a couple of bucks.
You know, I'll have to think it over. I don't keep that kind of cash lying around here.
Thanks, Uncle Billy. Let's have a drink on that.
I'll let you know, but I'm very busy now. Is there anything else?
Here's that in your eye. That was my brief but stimulating conversation with the late William Nair.
What time did you leave?
10:15, 10:20.
And after that?
And after that, well, I went to the traffic course.
Can you prove that?
Well, did I save any of those losing tickets? Oh, sure, Detective. I always save my losing stuff. Doesn't everybody? Oh, I was at the betting window quite a few times today. Why don't you check the security cameras? I'm sure they caught my bug there.
Thanks, I'll do just that.
Are we done here?
Sure. Send in the next person, would you?
Whatever. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The Inquisitioner wants to see you now.
Oh, please come in. I'm Detective Sam Diamond.
How do you do, sir?
Fine, fine. And how are you?
Well, considering the reason we're here, okay, I guess. It's just a shame. It's just a shame.
Yes. And you are?
I'm Chris Anthem. I'm the nearest guard.
Chris Anthem. Mr. Anthem, do you happen to see Mr. Nick?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about it?
Well, sir, I was working out below Mr. Nair's window over there, and I heard some shouting, arguing, I guess. I got a little closer to the window. I couldn't hear everything, but I could see it was Mr. Nair and his niece.
Oh, what time was that?
About 10:30, I guess.
Okay.
certainly don't have that kind of cash lying around here, and even if I did, why should it make you think, why should I keep paying for your bad habits?
Miss Nomad, it's my inheritance. I just want what's coming to me, and I don't want to wait for you to croak.
Your inheritance? What makes you think you're getting a dime, you want to break a little brat?
Let's not get it up for Uncle Billy. Let's have a drink and talk about this.
Now I want to. There's nothing to talk about. You gotta start taking care of your responsibilities like an adult. In fact, I have half a mind to just plain cut you off altogether. Now I'm pretty busy. Is there anything else?
Here's the blood in your eye.
Oh, what is it, Chris?
I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, sir. The placenta that I brought back, I nurtured it back. It looks pretty good right now. But you really should take better care of it.
Okay, Chris, thank you. I'll do that. Is there anything else, Chris?
Well, sir, it is about my being let go at the end of the month. You know, I can't afford to be out of work right now. I have my wife, Mr. Mayor, she's very sick, and I have 7 kids.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to go with a cheaper service that was recommended by a friend.
It's not about my work. I've worked real good for you, haven't I? It's not about my work.
No, that's not it, Chris.
Well, I've worked for you for 15 years, over 15 years. Doesn't that loyalty mean anything?
Sure it does, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. The next time I'm at the club, I'll ask around to the other members and see if anybody needs a gardener. If they do, I'll put in a good word for you. How's that?
That would be very fine, sir. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Good day.
And that's the last I saw of Mr. Mayor.
Oh, what did you do the rest of the day?
Oh, I went back to work. I'm real proud of my work, and I figured that maybe he'd reconsider and rehire me, you know.
What time did you leave?
About 3:30. I usually come to work around 5 in the morning so I can get most of my work done in the cool of the morning.
I know. What did you do after that?
I went home, of course. As I said, my wife is very sick, and I had to get home and take care of her and the kids.
All right, is there anything else you can tell me?
Not that I know.
Very well, thank you for coming. On your way out, would you please send an explanation in there?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Oh, please come in. Oh, Detective Sam Diamond. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Detective. Conman.
Con man? Hi, what is your relationship to the deceased?
Well, I'm very sorry, my detective. Billy was my dearest, oldest friend. We go way back to prep school days.
I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me about the last time you saw Mr. Mayor?
Certainly. I arrived at his office around 11:15 this morning. I had phoned earlier and told him I'd be stopping by. Just as I arrived at the door of his office, I heard the tail end of the conversation he was
anybody that needs a gardener and put in a good word for me, sir.
Sure, I'll do that. Sure. I'll do that.
Pesky little man, isn't he?
Who, the gardener? Yeah, he's turning into a real pain in the grass.
I thought you were gonna let him go, before this.
Well, you know, I thought today, Friday, would be his last day, but I decided to let him stay till the end of the month.
That's Monday, isn't it? A whopping 2 extra days? Why aren't you the generous one, Billy?
Well, you know, Con, I'm not in the business to be generous.
Oh, I know it.
Doggone it, Con, can't you ever let it drop?
I'm just needling you, Billy.
Dropping what? Needling him about what?
Oh, nothing really. It was years ago, and Billy still thinks I'm sore about it. Back when we were both a lot younger, I came up with a business idea one night while we sat having drinks. He said it was ridiculous it would never fly. 2 weeks later, the whole country was crazy about my idea, which he had taken and run with. It was the beginning of his first million.
And what was the idea?
The pet rock.
He invented the pet rock?
No, I invented the damn thing. He stole my idea and marketed it. When I confronted him about it later, he nearly laughed. When I told him I felt entitled to some part of the profits, he handed me $7.50, the cost of the drinks we had that night.
That's great. And you hold no grudge about that?
You need enough to kill him 30 years later? I might have killed him back then, but now, it's past history.
Wait. Who said anything about killing? This is considered to be a suicide.
Well, I just assumed you did say you were from homicide, right?
No, I didn't. But as it turns out, I am from homicide. All violent deaths have to be investigated just to make sure.
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
What are you having, Billy?
Vodka, but I'm good.
Oh, I think you drink that vodka. I'm a gin man myself. What about our game being canceled, eh? It will seem odd not to have our usual Friday night game.
And what was the problem at the club?
Something about the water main needing to be shut off. Should be back on by tomorrow, though. Would you like to reschedule for tomorrow, or just wait until next Friday?
I'm sorry, you said club. Would that be the Northside Racket and Fitness Club?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Please continue.
No, let's let it go. I've got tickets to the opera for tomorrow night.
Adam Butterfly? God, how can you drink this stuff? I'm seeing Adam Butterfly tonight myself. It's one of my favorites.
Excuse me, Con, that would be my call from France. Hello, bonjour. Oui. Oh, Marseille.
Okay, see you next week.
Chevrolet Coupe.
Next thing I know, an usher shining a light in my eyes in the middle of the second act telling me the police want to see.
What time did the opera start?
It started at 8, but I arrived around 7:30.
And what did you do until then?
Well, after I left Billy, I went to my office for a few hours, and then met up with a group of friends at about 3:30 for drinks at Hill Cuddy's Bar and Grill on West 59. I was there till about 5:30. Then went home to freshen up for the opera, and left my home again about 6:45.
All right, thank you very much. If there is anything more that you can tell me, would you please let me know? And could you let the next person come in, please? Thank you. Well, please come in. I'm Detective Sam Diamond. And you are?
I'm millionaire Billy's wife.
millionaire. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Nair. I know this will be difficult for you, and I will try to be brief.
Thank you, Detective.
Can you tell me about the last time you saw your husband?
Well, I came by his office at about 12:30, and he was on some phone call and waved me off. So I left and came back at about 3:30. I wanted to talk to him about our niece's visit earlier today. Hi, honey. You got a moment?
Oh, sure, sweetheart. What do you need? Gosh, it's good to see you.
Well, it's about Deb.
Yeah.
She came by earlier today, didn't she?
Yeah.
She was asking for more money.
Well, why else does she ever stop by?
What did you tell her?
Well, what do you think? I told her that I would not hand over an amount of money like that. She actually thought that I would do that without adding an amount. I told her she'd be lucky she ever got another cent. She had the audacity to tell me that it belonged to her and that she couldn't wait until I was dead to get it. You know, I've got half a mind to call my attorney and just have her written right out.
Well, whatever you think is best, Snookums, I'm going to leave that entirely in your hands.
Well, thank you, darling. Is today one of your shopping days?
Well, actually, I was going to do a little shopping at Gordon's. I just was going to pick up a couple of things.
You have plenty of cash?
Well,
Look, I don't want you to run short.
Oh,
Why don't you?
you're so good to me, my
Anything for you, sweetheart. Have a good time, sugar booger.
Well, I'll see you in 3 hours.
Okay, dear. I love that.
And that's the last I saw of my poor dear Billy.
Miss Nair, I remember Deb saying that she stopped by your husband's office to ask for a small advance to pay off a couple of wages.
Small advance. Is that what she told you? How much did she say she needed?
A couple of thousand.
A couple of thousand? Well, that's rich. Try more like a couple of 100,000. That girl is so in debt she could be her own third world country. I wish you had never taken her to the track.
Me? I never met her before tonight.
Oh, no, detective, not you. Hugh, you betcha? He used to own the Gracie Thoroughbreds a couple of years ago, and he took Deb along with him one day. That's all it took. She's been hooked ever since, practically lives there. Rumor has it that she has a fix-in with a lot of the trainers. Her gambling debts have nearly gotten her killed, and my husband and I have bailed her out several times. Billy thought it was best, though, that we just put a stop to it. It was for Deb's own good.
Yes, of course. Mrs. Nair, are you feeling all right? You seem to be scratching quite a bit.
Oh, well, actually, no, detective. Billy had a placenta in his office today, and I'm very allergic to it. I only have to be in the same room with one, and I start to itch. In a couple of hours, I'm just going to be scratching like mad.
So, what did you do after you left your husband's office?
Well, I went shopping at Nordstrom's until about 7:30. Then came home and found the police at my home and my poor dear Billy dead.
Can anyone verify that for you now?
Well, I kept the concierge and several sales ladies busy the entire time I was there.
You know, Mrs. Nair, I have a few difficult questions, and I apologize in advance for having to ask them. But you do know it is necessary.
Yes.
I understand that your husband and Miss Bai had more than a professional relationship?
Absolutely not. Whatever the rumors may have been, my husband and I loved each other very much. He may have had a roving eye, but he would never cheat on me.
Yes, of course. Now the gun, was it, did you know if your husband had a gun?
Yes. Yes, he bought a gun a couple of weeks ago, and he kept it in his desk drawer. He told me that he felt he needed it for protection. He even took some classes. He purchased it through the company and was going to write it off as a business expense.
Was anyone else aware that he had the gun?
I don't know. I don't think so. Why? Well, what do you mean? What are you saying? They told me he committed suicide. Do you think someone else did? Why do you want to know who else knew about it?
It's just routine, ma'am. I'm just trying to tie up a few loose ends. I didn't mean to upset you.
I'm sorry, Detective. This has been the worst day of my entire life. If we're done here, I'm not feeling well and I'd like to go lie down.
Yes, of course. And on the way out, would you please ask the next person to come in?
Oh, yes, I will.
Thank you. Oh, please come in. Detective Sam Diamond.
Mrs. Dusty Bolts?
Did you happen to see or talk to Mr. Nair today?
I saw him, yes, sir. It was late this afternoon. I was cleaning outside his office, and I was going to go in there, but I heard voices. It sounded like Mrs. Nair and him were having another one of their arguments.
Another one? Did they fight often, Mr. and Mrs. Nair?
Oh, yes, sir.
About what?
About a lot of things, I guess. But mainly about Mr. Nair's philandering ways and money. And that's what this one was all about.
Billy, I want to talk to you.
Now I'm busy.
Now, it's about Deb. She came by asking for more money today, didn't she?
Why else would she ever stop by?
What did you tell her?
What do you think I told her? She actually thought I'd hand over an amount of money like that without batting an eye. I told her she'd be lucky if she ever got another cent. She even had the audacity to tell me that it was owed to her, and she didn't want to wait till I was dead to collect. You know, I have half a mind to call my attorney on Monday, and she's not that far away, and have her write out of the will.
Why wait until Monday? Why don't you write that little witch out today?
What's your hurry? Afraid there won't be any left when I die?
That's exactly what I'm afraid of. I may have to put up with your tart of the month in order to keep this lifestyle to which I become accustomed. But I am not going to stand by and watch you waste my money on someone who couldn't win a bet on what day tomorrow is.
I don't understand, Miss Bowles. Why did she have to put up with it? Couldn't she have filed for a divorce?
Well, the rumor was that Mr. Nair made her sign a prenuptial agreement, which said that if she ever did file for divorce, she would get absolutely nothing. So she let him have his fling, and in the meantime, she did her best to spend everything he had. So if she ever did file for divorce, there would be nothing left for her not to get.
And they say romance is dead? Oh,
It's my money, and I'll do with it as I like.
Don't push it, Billy. You can only push me so far, or so help me.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, should I please hear that?
Yes, of course. Go ahead, that's fine.
much. I was the help, you know. He never paid much attention to me. I'm not sure that he even knew my name.
And what did you do after you finished cleaning?
Well, it was about 5 o'clock. I finished cleaning for the day. So I went to my quarters to watch TV. Jerry Springer was on. I sure like that show. Because it has people like you and me, you know, real people.
Right. And so you stayed in your quarters until you heard Miss Purcell calling for help?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you can tell me?
I don't think so.
Could you please have Miss Purcell come back in again? Thank you. Thank you for coming back in, sir.
Certainly, sir.
Could you tell me about the time that you saw Mr. Nair tonight?
Well, I didn't really see him until I went down to inform him that dinner was about ready.
That was about 6:30, right?
No, that was precisely 6:30. Mr. Nair always had dinner at precisely 7 o'clock on Friday evenings after his return from the match.
But he didn't have a racquetball game today.
Really? That's the first anyone told me.
So what happened when you went to tell Mr. Nair that dinner was about ready?
Well, sir, he didn't respond to my knock at his bedroom where he was usually showering and changing after his racquetball match. I knocked and entered, but he wasn't there. So I proceeded down to his office. When I arrived there, I found the door slightly ajar, and I poked my head in, and that's when I saw him on his desk, dead.
And so you left everything as it was, and no one came in or out of the room until the officers arrived?
That's correct. I sat just down the hall, and no one entered the room until your men arrived.
Now, was that the only time you stopped by Mr. Nair's office?
No, sir. As I told your officers earlier, I had stopped by about 4:15, tried to catch Mr. Nair before he left for his club. And I stopped by about 4:15. But when I approached the door, I heard him speaking with Mrs. Bowles.
But Mr. Nair, you promised.
Well, Mrs. Bowles, I've reconsidered. I put my neck on the line for you already, but to bring in your entire family is just too risky.
But nobody will ever find out, Mr. Nair. I promise.
Look, I hired you without a green card because you were cheap. But I have no use for your entire family. And if you don't profit, I might just discover I have no use for you, and you'll find yourself sitting down at the INS office, waiting for the next boat back home.
Mr. Nair, you wouldn't.
In a heartbeat. Housekeepers are a dime a dozen, and there's another truckload of them coming north of the border every day.
Mr. Nair, you're a horrible man. Un canallo, un mentiroso, un sinvergüenza, muy
It turns me on when you talk to me like that. That'll be all for today, Mrs. Bowles. Go on, get out, and be thankful I'm in a good mood. Or you can find yourself out on the streets tonight.
La cosa que hay por este en este mundo, Dios mío.
At that point, I returned to the kitchen to begin preparing for dinner. At about 5:30, I heard a very strange noise. I went
And so you stayed in the kitchen until you went to tell Mr. Nair that dinner was going to be ready?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else that you might be able to tell me?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Well, sir, I think I have everything I need for tonight. So, with your permission, I'll let myself out. Well, by the time I finished my questioning that night, I had strong suspicions about Mr. Nair's death. 3 days later, I got a phone call from the coroner's office. Detective Diamond here.
Yeah, hey Sam, got a little surprise for you.
Don't tell me. Our dear Mr. Nair was not so honorable as to off himself.
Yeah, how'd you know that?
I didn't for sure, but I had my doubts. What do you got for me?
Well, seems like Nair ingested a bit of scopolamine.
Scopolamine, what is that?
Yeah, it's a horse tranquilizer.
Did you say horse?
Yep. Comes from a plant family called nightshade, which is real common, especially in southwestern Mexico.
Would the Tracenta plant possibly be part of the nightshade family?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is.
Now, could Mr. Nair have taken scopolamine just to calm his nerves until he pulled the trigger?
No way. This stuff is pretty potent. The amount he had in him would have dropped a pretty big horse real fast. And there was no horse. I doubt he would have even had the time to pick the gun up after ingesting.
Boy. Well, Doc, I sure appreciate the call. Thanks. Goodbye. Well, before I had a question. Now, I knew it was murder. Did you happen to catch all the clues? Did you get some of the half-truths and separate them from some possible outright lies? If so, fill out your detective's report during break. And after a short break, we'll be back to find out who done it. So, did you figure out who done it? Or was it just a little too close to the call? Well, let's take a walk through some of the clues and see what we have. First of all, almost everybody up there had a reason to want Mr. Nair dead. But despite a plethora of motives, only a few had the opportunity, and only one knew enough about Mr. Nair to have committed the crime. Let's see who. Who was the one most skilled in the art of deception? That was the person I wanted to investigate first. Millionaire. She called her husband Snuffums. She said her husband would never cheat on her. And then we found out she knew all about his philandering ways. And she said in order for her to keep up the lifestyle that she was accustomed to, she put up with his part of the month. Come on. Why would she do that? Well, a divorce meant that Millie would be penniless. And Millie loved money. If her husband died, Millie would get it all. And she knew that her husband had a gun, and she knew that her husband kept the gun in the desk drawer. Could have been Millie. I hear he doesn't know. Well, spend money was certainly not impaired. For that afternoon, Millie was at Nordstrom's doing what she loved to do best. Spend money, right? And when I checked on the concierge, we had to carry all those packages, the sales clerks and the sales slips, they all verified where Millie was that afternoon. And I had to let Millie go because Millie was nowhere near her husband at the time of his death. Millie. Then I thought, con man. Now revenge is certainly a common motive. And although I might be a little bit embarrassed at having invented the pet rock, if someone would have taken my idea and made millions of dollars off of it and only given me $7.50, now that would have made me mad. Mad. Maybe livid. And for some people, maybe livid enough to commit murder. And he seemed to know that I was from Homicide. I didn't tell him that. But when I corrected him, did you see how nervous he got? I wonder if guilt didn't drive him in that direction. And he was one of the few that knew Mr. Now would be home like that afternoon. But he said he had an alibi. Let's look at his alibi. And here we have a little bit of a close call. He was at McGillicuddy. And I verified that. But he left about 5:30. The butler thought he heard something about 5:30. Could the watches have been off? Could he have gone from McGillicuddy's over to Mr. Nair's office? Possibly. But I think it would be a hard thing to prove in court. Especially since it's been 30 years. He could have done Billy in at any time during that 30-year period. So after thinking the thing over, I finally decided to let on man go because I didn't have enough strong evidence to bring him to court. On man, here we go. I looked at Alan. Now, a spurned lover can be a mortal enemy. And being turned over for a new model, well, for some people, it can cause them to snap. And did you see how she rushed out of the office, almost in tears? I wondered if Mr. Nair wasn't trying to dump her and get back some of that expensive jewelry. But Miss Nair knew that he was going to be home that afternoon. I wonder, could it have been alibi? No. Well, alibi said she was going to be home about 5 o'clock. This time, she can thank that nosy back down the hall, Mrs. Bristol. Because when I checked with Mrs. Bristol, she said that Allie got there about 5 o'clock and was there until at least 7. So, I had to let Allie go. She was nowhere near the crime at the time of the murder. Call from the corner. Scopolamine. Scopolamine is what caused Mr. Nair's death, not the gunshot. Now he said that scopolamine was from the nightshade family of plants. And those plants are grown in the Southwest, like in Mexico. And Placenta belongs to that family of plants. And scopolamine is a tranquilizer, specifically a horse tranquilizer. Now, the gardener should know about the nightshade family of plants. And he brought the placenta into Mr. Nair's office at about 10:30. And the maid, she's from Mexico or somewhere south of the border. And as a horse tranquilizer, Deb and you should certainly have access to some pollination. Well, let's look at the gardener first. Now, Chris Anthem has worked for Mr. Nair for 15 years, a very loyal employee. But Mr. Nair didn't care about loyalty, did he? And when Chris was pleading to please keep me on the job or find a new job for him, Mr. Nair pulled the window shade down on him. And that made Chris furious. Especially since Chris had those shoes. Could Chris have done it? Well, you're right. Chris thought a lot about loyalty. After his confrontation with Mr. Nair, Chris went back to work. And after working 9 hours, Chris went back and take care of his wife and 7 kids. When I checked with the family, they said Chris got here sometime about 4:30 and was here all night long. Chris, I have to let you know because you were not to see the crime. Let's look at Dustin. Now, she knew an awful lot about the Nair's personal lives, didn't she? And I think she was somewhat of a snoop. Now, she wanted to stay in the United States, but she was here illegally, and I think she would have wanted to collect it because she wanted her family here. What did Mr. Nair say? I don't care anything about your family. I only hired you because you were cheap. And if you don't profit, I may not even care about you. And you may find yourself in the INS office waiting for the next vote. What a cut to a loyal employee. She went out of Mr. Nair's office furious and irate. Now, I didn't understand what she said. I think it was What about her alibi? Now, her only alibi, no one could verify. She was home alone watching television. But at the same time, she didn't have a lot of motive to want Mr. Nair dead, did she? Don't have evidence. Now, she wanted to stay in the United States. Her best chance of doing that and bringing her family over would not be in killing her benefactor. If she did that, she would be up for questioning. She would possibly go to prison. She'd be deported, none of which she wanted. I didn't have a lot of evidence, but it sort of pointed towards freedom for Dusty Bowles. So I decided to let Dusty Bowles go. The butlers.
He did it.
Could the butler have done it?
You bet he did.
Did he have access to housing? One thing that was suspicious to me, he was a little bit too proud. And money was going in and out of that place like crazy. I wondered, not of all my experience, I've never known the butler to ever commit murder. So Dapper Deb, and Handsome Hugh. Now, we all know about Deb's terrible addiction to horse racing. And Hugh had a couple of thoroughbreds several years ago. Now, I remember Mrs. Nair saying that she thought Deb had it in with some of the trainers. And Deb seemed very eager to give Mr. Nair a drink, despite his not wanting it. But Mr. Nair was also trying to write Deb out of his will. Now, that had to be stopped. She needed that money, and she needed to stop that right away. But Hugh seemed awfully nervous when he was presenting that financial results to his boss. Now, maybe he did get the wrong report. Maybe he had good reason to be nervous. But he also delved pretty deep into the family financial affairs. If he knew about all of the jewelry, he certainly must have known about the gun. And he was in the office when the call was placed canceling the racquetball. Well, let's go back to Deb for a minute. I thought that if Deb really had a camp with all of those horse trainers, would she have realized such monumental losses? Now, I think those losses were due to foolish decisions and bad judgment. And the scopolamine, she could not have mixed scopolamine in the drink because Conman took the drink first from the glass. Conman was still with us. In fact, Mr. Nair could not have drunk a scopolamine-laced drink till after 5 o'clock because we saw Dusty said she left Mr. Nair's office at 5 o'clock. Now, you also seem to be very adamant to stop any audit. Maybe he had a reason. Maybe that report was going to be good. Maybe the audit was a waste of money. And maybe the reason he delved so deeply into those financial affairs is he knew Mr. and Mrs. Nair were mounting up such monumental expenditures that it was running the company deeper and deeper into the red. So who did it? Together. Well, let's look at just a couple more clues. You scratched them all. You know that? And it was Hugh that introduced Deb to the racetrack. Now Deb was so in debt that she was totally dependent upon her uncle. In fact, her gambling losses nearly got her killed. She needed Mr. Nair's money. And she needed a lot of it. Could they have done it together? Yes. Yeah. I thought of that. But then, a few days later, I got the tapes from the track. And as Deb predicted, there was her pretty face. Over and over and over again, doing what she did best, lose money. And on those tapes were her face and the time and the date, which she showed conclusively that Deb was nowhere near her uncle when her uncle was killed. Deb, you're free to go. Now we got to look carefully. You was scratching a lot. And I noticed that Mrs. Nair was scratching a lot. Mrs. Nair attributed that to the fact that she was allergic to the placenta. And I wondered, could you have been allergic to the placenta plant? If so, how did he get near it? That placenta plant was not taken into the office until 10:30. Hugh left at 9 o'clock. And to Hugh's recollection, the plant was in the office, but it wasn't. It wasn't there for it wasn't there when the house was there. We had to come back to the office after 5 o'clock. And what would he come back for? Maybe he showed Mr. Nair such a glowing financial report that they had drinks over it before dinner. But Hugh said he was at the Northside Racket and Fitness Club. Could he have been?
No.
He could have been, but if he was there, he would have noticed that the Racket Fitness Club was closed. And he certainly wouldn't have been able to have a sauna, jacuzzi, steam to clean out old pores. Certainly couldn't have that. And he most certainly would have not used that as an alibi for where he was at the time of Mr. Nair's death. You betcha, were you in Mr. Nair's office having a drink with him? Did you destroy the evidence after using the gun to make it look like a suicide? You know what I think? You betcha. Here, I've got enough evidence to bring you in. You scoundrel. I never thought you could do that.
Still going? Yes. Hold on.
I want to thank you all for coming over this evening and supporting CODA, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves and you liked the show. Tonight, I don't have to caution all you folks, as we did the other 3 nights, don't tell anybody. Because this is the last show. And I want to let you know that we really enjoyed putting it on, and we're glad you enjoyed it. And I'd like to introduce you to our cast members and the supporting people. And we have some old faces and some new faces. And starting off with an old face, Stuart Book, who played Medicel. And the talented and always lovely, my secretary, Allie Bai, Linda Gillette. And of course, you don't recognize her because she's in drag. Eloise Carlson as Christine. And a new member and a welcome addition, con man, Mr. Bob Deacon. And as my lovely wife and certainly miserly millionaire, Miss Judy Cuesta. And then reprising her role as one of the world's finest cleanup ladies, Connie Johnson. very sinister guilty party. You betcha it's Charlie Geisler. And the wonderful detective who we normally see running around the violin and singing and playing very nicely, Sam Diamond, Mr. Dale Wilson. Our announcer, when did you get there? Oh. Yeah.
Now, and on behalf of the cast,
And our offstage announcer in the corner, if we told him if he would do that, he didn't have to sing, Gene Kirshner. And behind the scenes people, the set design and a lot of the construction was done by Ken and Heather Stremme, some new folks. Set construction was done by Bob Deacon and Charlie Geisler and Dale Wilson.
Way to go.
Sound effects were done by Glenn and Tanya Mead. Stage music was provided by Ann Brocker. Working the lights were Sonia Edison and Christine Bloodgood. And then we had the curtain being opened and closed very mysteriously. But we had two people doing that. You can barely see him, but there's a young fellow back there named Keith. Keith Crow and his mom, Karen. Our stage manager was Cece Thomas, another new addition. She helped out as the hostess with Cece Thomas, Ellie Carlson, and Heather Stremme. And Kara Rao was also our assistant director. And and I guess that pretty much sums it up. I don't think there was anybody else involved in the
Who was
production.
Mr. Nair?
Well,
This old guy, Fred Hogan.
that's everybody, isn't it?
Well, there may be one more.
Arthur.
Arthur.
We don't have anybody named Arthur. Director. Oh, the author and director. Chris McCarthy, please. Chris, we enjoyed so much of working with you and getting your script to where it was actually useful. Thank you very much. This is from the crew, and thank you very, very much. We're looking forward to hearing getting a great American novel out of that. Thank thank you very, very much for coming. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to attending in the future and helping